Okay, so the recording should be beginning now. And I'd like to start out by just sharing a poll with everybody. And the first question, just so I have an idea, is which social channels do you personally use? Out of the options of TripAdvisor, Facebook, Google+, Foursquare, and Yelp, if you can just go ahead and select any or all that apply to you. I'll give it about 5 more seconds. Okay, we're down to the last 3 seconds. And I see that we don't have very many Foursquare or Yelp users out here, although Facebook seems to be very popular. Okay, I'm going to close this poll. And I'm going to ask one more question. Of the same social channels, which ones do you use for your business? So I'll give you about 30 seconds to answer that as well. And again, the choices are TripAdvisor, Facebook, Google+, Foursquare, and Yelp. Okay. And we've got about 10 more seconds left. It looks like right now from the results that I see that TripAdvisor and Facebook are pretty close. Doesn't appear that anybody's using Foursquare, which is my favorite. All right, so we're going to close that. And from the number of people that voted, it does appear that people seem to be most familiar with TripAdvisor and Facebook, and then not quite as familiar with Google+, Yelp, and Foursquare. And we've had almost everyone vote in the poll. I did not pull my audience in the room with me, but I pretty much have a good idea of which ones that they use. So with that going, I'm going to get started with the presentation, and I will check in to look for your questions. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about is why would you want to use these social channels? And again, I'm going to focus on what I consider the big 5 right now. 3 of them, TripAdvisor, Facebook, and Google+, have both a local and a global reach, whereas Yelp and Foursquare are definitely geared more towards local search. So one advantage to using these channels is it has better placement on what some of us refer to as the SERP, the search engine ranking pages. And I was recently at a conference where we had the head of search for Bing and the head of web spam, also search at Google, talking about how search results are going to be changing in the coming months and years. And both of them said pretty much across the board that more and more of the search results are going to be based on these social signals. So if you have guests leaving recommendations on your Facebook page or leaving reviews on your Google Plus page, that's going to help you show up higher in the search engines. This also has an impact on local search. A lot of times when people are traveling, or let's say they're trying to make reservations for family members that are coming to visit, they'll look at local things such as Yelp and Foursquare to get reviews to help make those booking decisions. It's also important to use these because this is where the guests are going for information. And so almost everyone who answered the poll said that they use TripAdvisor as an individual, and the most people who use TripAdvisor are going there to look at the reviews. So they want to say, what are other people saying about this property? Is this a good place to stay? And while reviews are not 100% accurate when they're user-generated, that is still something that people use to answer their search questions and say, am I going to a nice place? These are also tools that you can use to help you drive more transactions to your hotel website at a lower cost. Google+, Facebook, Yelp, and Foursquare all offer free options, and then they have an additional option where you can pay to have specific advertising on those sites. So claiming your space on these different channels will benefit you in the long run. So I'm going to focus on free channels. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of free channels out there, and I picked the 5 that I felt would provide the biggest impact at the lowest cost, both in time and money. And if you'd like to learn more about some of the other channels out there, we have developed a set of getting started guides for these different tools, which includes things like Twitter in addition to the 5 you see on the screen. And I'm always happy to answer your questions. So today we're going to focus on TripAdvisor, Google Plus and Google Hotel Finder, Facebook, Yelp, and Foursquare. So we'll start with TripAdvisor. For the hotel business, TripAdvisor is the one place you need to be. If you haven't claimed your hotel travel site yet, take a few minutes to do that. TripAdvisor is the largest social hotel travel site currently on the planet. They're also moving to what's known as meta search. And so they're going to be providing additional information so that people can actually search and book rooms on the TripAdvisor site. TripAdvisor does provide free registration and tools, along with tutorials and also recommendations on how to respond to reviews. They do offer a paid business listing as well, and that's where you can offer specials to your TripAdvisor guests. TripAdvisor also provides a Facebook TripAdvisor app so that you can include that on your Facebook page. And they have little icons and images and code that you can put on your hotel website that will also allow you to tell people, here's where I am on TripAdvisor. You can have just the logo. You can have one that actually shows the ratings for your particular property. So there's a wide variety of tools you can use to help direct guests to TripAdvisor and then have the TripAdvisor guests find your website. There was a survey done by T-News back in December, and some of the stats that I found really, really interesting, and these would apply not just to TripAdvisor, but also to your Facebook page and your Google Plus page. And one of those stats was that properties with 11 or more reviews see a 26% increase in engagement. So the more reviews you have on the site, the more likely other guests are to leave reviews and interact. The other thing that was very interesting is that hotels that had 30 or more photos experienced 41% more engagement. We are a very visual society, and especially now with the advent of tablets and smartphones, Instagram, Pinterest, things that really capture that visual experience, the more people can see images of your property, the more likely they are to want to book. Now, when it talks about 30 or more photos, that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to go out, hire a professional photographer, and have professional pictures taken. You may want to run a contest on your Facebook page and have guests share their favorite vacation photos, or ask them to post that on their TripAdvisor review of your site too. So these can be user-generated photos in addition to hotel-generated photos. And the same applies with video. If you've got at least one video on your site, you tend to have more interaction. These can be very short videos. Twitter has just released a tool called Vine that allows users to create 6-second videos. But again, you want to have a message in mind, you want to get that message clearly stated, and then you want to share it with your clientele. Moving on to Facebook. Facebook has told the world that they are the largest social network on the planet. They do offer business pages, and they also, of course, have individual user pages. In order to set up a business page, you do have to create a personal Facebook account, and then you would build a page for your hotel. And at that point, you can allow other people to be co-administrators that will help you post information. Another tool that Facebook offers is something that's called promoted posts, and that is a way for you to pay a small fee and get that post of yours in front of more users. Facebook also has a tool called Facebook Insights. And so once you have a certain number of likes on your page, you can actually look at some analytical data that lets you know how many people are seeing your posts. And the nice thing about Facebook is it's not just the person who likes your page that's seeing that post, it's that person's friends and their circle of followers that see that information. So even using promoted posts gets the word out to more people. So someone may say, oh, Hotel XYZ in California, they just put something up on my friend Susie's page. I want to go check them out. Facebook is also rolling out several new tools in the next few weeks and months that you need to be aware of. The first one is called Graph Search, and it is no longer in beta. When you log into Facebook at some point within the next year, you are now going to see the Graph Search built into your Facebook experience, whether you like it or not. And what Graph Search allows people to do is what Facebook is calling real language search. So I can type in, show me a list of all the hotels in Chicago that my friends who like the Chicago Bears stay at. And I'm from Chicago originally, and I'm a Bears fan, so please don't hold that against me. But this will pull up a list then of all of my friends who have stayed in Chicago that also like the Chicago Bears. The nice thing to remember is that posts that you have made for your property, maybe a year or two ago, can now resurface. because it's looking at everything in the history that you've had with Facebook. Another new tool that's really important, especially for users using their mobile devices, is the nearby feature. If you have location enabled on Facebook, the nearby tool will say, oh, you need a hotel to stay on? Here's 5 that have got high recommendations from other Facebook users that you're friends with. And it will highlight recommendations or comments that people leave about local businesses. So if you are a Facebook user, you may want to consider turning on that check-in feature on your mobile device so that you can check in to different places that you go, because that data is going to start being compiled to provide those nearby results. There's also a tool called Recommendations, and you can add this as a box on your business page, and you can ask guests to leave a recommendation. So if you enable the Recommendations app, for lack of a better term, people can then go, oh, I just stayed at the Chicago Bears Hotel, and it was a wonderful experience, other than the fact that it was 20 below zero. So I would go in and go, okay, well, it's January in Chicago, 20 below is normal. I think I'll go stay there. If, however, it was California, I might be a little concerned. The next thing I'd like to talk about, and I will check for questions momentarily, is Google Hotel Finder and Google+. A few months ago, Google released a product from the beta status to live status called Google Hotel Finder. And this is something to compete with the other meta search engines. Google is not specifically taking reservations to their Hotel Finder, but they are compiling those results and showing it on the Google search page once somebody types in a hotel that they're looking for. The data is going to be pulled from the GDS, so you do need to be connected to a GDS, and then property information is being pulled from the Properties Google Plus page. Photos are pulled from either VMF Leonard or your Property Google Plus page. It's designed to be a one-stop shop for finding hotels in true Google fashion, and what other people can find is that Google, if you've given them permission, can also look at your email while you're searching and send up a message that says, hey, did you know that you reserved a hotel in Knoxville, Tennessee next week? And so in your search, Google's also going to pull up and share with you any hotel reservations you've made, flight reservations, car rentals. That result is only available to the end user, but it's another great way to promote your property. So if somebody is a Google user and they've reserved a room at your hotel, it's going to pull up in their search results, and then they can go over to their friends or colleagues and go, hey, look, I'm staying at this great hotel. You should stay there too. The key thing to remember about Google Hotel Finder is it is not an OTA. It is pulling information from the GDS and the different sites. If you are not on the GDS and you search for your property in Google Hotel Finder, it will just have a link directly to your hotel website. So a few things to make sure. Make sure that you've got a Google local page for your property. If you're a longtime Google Services user, this used to be referred to as Google Places. You want to make sure your hotel is connected to a GDS. You want to make sure your content is updated. So have pictures, encourage your guests to leave reviews, provide updated posts to your page talking about specials that you have, or talk about the weather. People always like to talk about the weather. So we're in Nashville right now, and it's cold and it's snowing. That's not supposed to happen in Tennessee. So I would love to see a page that said, it's 80 degrees and sunshiny wherever I am. I might say, hey, let me get away this weekend. So updated content is a really good thing to do. You cannot bribe guests to leave a review on your site. That will get you in trouble with a variety of sources, including Google itself. But what you can do is send a follow-up email with a link to your site or a link to your TripAdvisor page saying, please leave a review, let us know about your experience. So we'll also talk briefly about Google Plus Local. Google is trying to integrate everything. Bing is working on something similar, but it's not quite at the same level. It does replace Google Places, and it does give you more control over your Google presence. There are some advantages to using Google Plus if you want to connect with your guests on a more individual basis. For example, you could do a Hangout, which is a live webinar right from your hotel front desk, just to kind of say, hey, You're here for this conference. We'd love to hear your feedback. Let's share it with the world and then put it on your YouTube channel. Reviews and ratings on Google come both from Frommer's and from individual user reviews. The next thing I'd like to talk about is Yelp. And Yelp is more of a local tool. It also is free. It can help drive business to your hotel, but Yelp does not focus specifically on hotels. It focuses on hotels, restaurants, and pretty much any small business in your area. The users tend to be a little bit more eclectic, and so the recommendations from Yelp and from other reviews and sources that I found on the web say that unless you're consistently getting what would be considered 3-star reviews, then you don't necessarily want to jump into Yelp right away. But what I would recommend is looking on Yelp for your property to see what people might be saying about you right now. A business does not have to claim their Yelp page for people to leave comments. If I want to leave a comment about Joe's, cat store, and they don't have their Yelp presence claimed, I can go in, type in information about the business, such as the physical address, the hours of operation, if I know them, their phone number, and then leave a comment. And the business may not even know that those comments are out there. So a good idea is to just once a month or so, just go out and check to see what people are saying about you. Yelp is good for improving what's called SEO or search engine optimization because it does include up-to-date content. There are good links. You can post your own photos, you can do special offers, and you can see how many people are leaving comments about your property. One thing to keep in mind, Google Plus uses the information on Android devices. Let me reverse that. Android devices use the information found on Google Plus, especially in the Google Maps. Yelp information is used by Hipmunk and also by iOS, otherwise known as Apple devices, if they're using Siri to search. So we did an experiment here at InnLink. Using an Apple device with Siri, we said hotels in Hendersonville. We have a hotel physically located less than 100 yards from us. It did not appear in the Apple listings. When we checked on an Android device with Google Maps, that hotel did show up. So it is important to realize that different people may see different information depending on which mobile device they're using. Foursquare. This is one of my favorites, and I get picked on all the time for using it. Foursquare is one of the check-in apps that was created about 4 or 5 years ago. And when they first came out, there were several others that were competing, and Foursquare has become the clear winner. It's a web-based app, but it's also a smartphone app. And what you do is when you visit a place, you check into it. You can have friends, you can leave tips, and the part that really appeals to me, both from a user's perspective, but also as a business owner, is that you can offer rewards to your loyal followers or to people who check in. So using an example of Foursquare rewards outside of the hotel universe, Chili's restaurant offers check-in rewards. So if I check into my local Chili's, I get a little window that pops up on my phone that says, "Thank you for checking into Chili's on Foursquare. You've earned free chips and salsa." If you check in 3 times, you also get a free dessert. Guess where I like to go eat at lunch? So as a hotel, you can do that. Give them some type of a complimentary upgrade. If you charge for your newspaper, check in and get your newspaper free. You get a free cookie, something like that. I like cookies, so I always use that as an example. Another chain only gives rewards to the person who is designated as the mayor. And in Foursquare terms, the mayor is the person who has checked into your location the most times. As a business, the nice thing about Foursquare is it gives you specific information about who's checking in, including the name of the person, so you can customize an offer when they come in and say, "Hey, Mary, the most frequent check-in person to our property, we've got something special just for you." You can also have a free business listing, and you can push out specials to people that are in a predefined geographic area. So let's say that you are in New York City and you're a Foursquare business user, and you know that the New York Marathon is coming. And so you can push out a deal saying, anybody who's in town for the marathon, if you want to extend your stay by an extra day, check in on Foursquare to our hotel, and we'll give you 25% off your next stay. So you can tailor those promotions to meet the needs of your property. Foursquare users also leave tips, and there are several major corporations that are involved in Foursquare that do special promotions. So I'm a big history nerd, and so I follow the History Channel on Foursquare, so every time I check into a museum, I also get like little bonuses because this is a designated History Channel select spot. And so it just appeals to that competitive nature of myself. So the last thing I want to talk about before we open this up for questions is reputation management. And this could be an entire webinar in and of itself, but the most important things to take away from this is these are all tools where people can say things about you that you may not even know that they're talking about you. And back in the good old days of about 10 years ago, as a property, we could control that marketing message. We sent out the email. We did the newsletter. We did the print ad. Today, anybody can create content and say things. And so it's really important to know what people are saying about you online. It's also a way to manage guest expectations because there are times that the guest may have an expectation that's just beyond what's realistic. If they were expecting a 5-star, 5-diamond, $1,000 night experience, and they're staying at a hotel that, sells rooms for $100 a night, then that guest expectation may not have been realistic. So those are things that you can help manage. It is a good idea to respond to both positive and negative comments. So again, on TripAdvisor, if somebody says something negative about your property and it's something that you can correct, go ahead and respond and say, thank you for that feedback, just like you would do a comment card. We appreciate your concern. I'm sorry that you had a bad experience at the pool. We'll make sure that, our poolside attendants are checking more frequently or something along those lines. Respond to positives as well. Thank you very much. I'll make sure I let that staff member know that you really appreciated their service. Apologize when needed, but sometimes that's all you need to do. There are some things that you can't correct, but you can apologize. I'm sorry you felt that way. Or I'm sorry you felt that the checkout experience took too long. My idea of a fast checkout and somebody else's idea might be different. And then watch for trends that are coming across. If you see the same types of comments coming through Yelp and TripAdvisor and your Facebook page, that might be an alert to you that either something really good is happening or maybe there's a problem that needs to be corrected. So with that, I am going to open it up for questions. So yeah, I like that. Go Bears. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to enter that into the questions box. If there are no questions, I'd like to thank everybody for participating, and I will get a copy of this webinar out to you shortly. Also, if you haven't been to the InnLink site lately, please look on the right-hand column where we do have our blog, and we will be posting articles about social channels, about reputation management on a regular basis. So let me know if I can answer anything. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, then I am going to stop the recording, and I look forward to seeing everyone at our next webinar.